Have you heard the statements, I fear God, or they fear God, or put the fear of God in them? If you have, you've likely spent a little bit of time around religion because this is something they often said within the religious community. And I want to talk a little bit about this and how it programs us to be disconnected from our true and authentic self. So stay tuned to this episode if you'd like to hear a little bit more about that. Welcome to the Soul Alignment Mentor Podcast. I'm your host, Angie, and I'm inviting you to explore the depths of self-sabotage, limiting mindsets, and the beliefs that hinder our progress in life. Through intuitive messages I receive from my spirit team, I share profound insights to help you live authentically and break free from these limitations. Join me now as we uncover all the keys to living your best life. Welcome back. My name is Angie, and I'm your Soul Alignment Mentor, bringing intuitive messages from the Spirit to help you align with your most authentic self. So if you have been around or you were in religion for any significant time of your life, you likely heard the statement, fear of God. And this has been coming up in my mind recently just because of this coming year as we are looking at electing a new president, as far as like political things in general. I spent a significant amount of time, the last about 12 years of my life, I spent in a non-denominational Pentecostal church. And if you know anything about the Pentecostal church, there are some things that I still believe that were taught within that space. However, there's a lot of things that I've come to realize that were just simply not true. Now, I don't put blame on the church or the teacher, the pastor, or anybody that was in that space because they simply were regurgitating what they had learned in their life. And so what we do in our lives is we learn these things as we grow up. We are around these things. We hear these things. Then we start to believe them. And then they become our identity. They become who we are. And before we know it, this is the lifestyle we have. We live within a certain group. We only have friends with this certain type of people. And particularly within the church setting, like I remember there was a big emphasis on not becoming friends with non-Christians or associating with them. And that if I was to associate with them, the purpose of it was to lead them to Christ or to get them to come to church. And so, my background in the church was all about fear or being enough or finding my worth or being accepted by God. And for myself, I know that everybody's different, but I come from significant trauma in my childhood. And so I had already felt like I wasn't good enough. I had already felt like I needed to live up to a certain standard to be loved and accepted. And so then going into a setting like this just amplified that. It just caused me to continue to seek my worth and to try to perform and try to be the best person I could, to be the most kind, the most loving, the most like I would bend my boundaries to make sure everybody else was okay. And so in many ways, it continued to develop codependency in me where I didn't even know what my needs were. I didn't even know what I wanted. And what's interesting is like I can look back in that time period of my life, and there were times I felt frustrated and I felt upset. And if I did speak up and it went wrong, like I would always feel guilty that I used my voice where I set a boundary. But there was always this part of me that felt off, that felt frustrated. And I think that part of me, of course, was my spirit guiding me out of religion, which took a while, but that part of me was my true authentic self attempting to come out, but I was repressing that part of me out of fear of not being loved or accepted by the community in which I was in. And so as I'm thinking about these statements that we were taught, or I was taught in that setting, such as fear God, or they fear God, or put the fear of God in them, now that I'm awoken and I have been walking this awakened life for a while now, and I have had communication with spirits, and I've been able to channel my spirit team, the wisdom keepers, I've been able to communicate with multiple other people's spirit guides and their loved ones on the other side, communication with my dad who passed in 2020. I've come to understand that fear being associated with God is a control tactic, and it's not true. There is no association of fear with God. And so when we associate fear with God, we're actually disconnecting ourselves from our true self, because God does not fear. He does not cause fear. It is not fear. The energy of God is only love. And when we look at it that way, it releases all of the ideas of like having to perform, having to live up a certain standard, having to be a certain way other than your true self. Because when you come back to your authentic self, you're actually living what you would call like your human code, the code of your soul, what your specific spirit is tuned to as a frequency. And so as you get to know yourself and understand self-value, self-worth, self-love, you understand that everybody around you is also working towards that same thing, and that you're not going to find that in anything outside of yourself. But you also come back to the knowledge that you are the I am. You are source God living as a human. You are a frequency of God, that we mention he because God is not a masculine or a feminine. God is just simply energy. And so what I find it interesting that I'm even saying he as I talk about God today, because I don't normally say that, but this is just how easy it is to get programmed by certain things within different atmospheres that we go into. So for me, in being in the church, God was a masculine. He was a man. He sat on a throne. He dictated. He controlled. He was could be angry, he could be mad, he could chastise us. There's like all these negative things that I had in my head about this being of God, and none of it's true. That all is developed through our ego mind, through the manipulation and control that has been passed down for centuries and thousands of years throughout the human ego. And so when we come back to our true authentic self, when we come back to the realization that there is no fear in love, which is God, God is love, then we can come back to the truth of who we are without having to live up to some kind of standard. Because when we live in our hearts, when we live in our maybe what we would say our heart chakra, when we reconnect with our true authentic self, we release fear. And that fear that we have created in our lives can be seen in all areas. The fear of being accepted by another person, the fear of losing someone, the fear of abandonment, the fear of not having enough, the fear of lack, the fear of success, the fear of failure, all these things that have been created because of fear. And so if we think about it, with the cycling of fear and being taught that we should fear God for so very long, then this energy has been cycling throughout the earth for thousands and thousands of years. And so it's no wonder that we all work out of the energy of fear. And so what we do in our healing journey is we deprogram that fear so we can find our true authentic self, which is love. And that love first starts with us. This is why in the Bible, Jesus taught love your neighbor as you love yourself. He wasn't saying to neglect yourself and to love other people more than you love yourself. He's saying begin with you, because when you love you, that is an automatic sending out of the frequency of love to those around you. You cannot truly love someone else until you love yourself, because you get to know love through you, because love is in you and you are it. And when we have this comprehension and this deep knowing that we are the energy of God and that we are that energy of love, we can break down all those negative beliefs or that fear that has been created in our ego mind and begin to open up to the abundance of what life can truly be. We can begin to see areas in our life, maybe relationships or friendships or the job you're in, or the money lack, or whatever it may be, you can begin to see all these areas where fear has created barriers for you. And the reality of it is we are the creator. We are source energy God. We create our reality around us. We manifest that reality. So for years and years and years throughout your life, depending on how old you are at this point that you're listening to this, you have been cycling this energy outside of yourself, because anything within you is a reflection of what's outside of you. So we have been recycling this fear into our world around us and repressing our true emotions, our true feelings, and the things that we have really, really felt throughout our life in attempts to be something to make everything outside of us feel better. But really, to make things feel better, we have to go inward first. We have to go inward. This is why when people go through an awakening process, they have a period of isolation. Almost every single human that has a spiritual awakening will feel very lonely for a short amount of time, because you are set apart. And the Bible even talks about this: be set apart. You have to be set apart. I'm hearing Spirit giving me a message right now. And this is why Jesus left and went into the deserts for 40 days and 40 nights. He went to go meditate. He went to go get to know himself. He went to go sit with his own ego. And his ego is what was tempting him, because he was developing this understanding of who he was as the energy of God, as the I am energy. And as he walked around with that awareness without reprogramming his ego, and knowing that if he worked out of that fear that he had developed, he would begin to try to gain control, just like the church was. And this is why he became so angry at the church, because he came back to the realization that it was not true, that truth was love. And so he purposely put himself in a situation of isolation to reprogram his mind, his body, his energy, his thinking. And he tempted himself. The ego was what was tempting him to say, if you are so great, then do this. If you are so great, then do this. And so he overcame that by going into it, by sitting with that part of himself. And then he was able to come back out of that and teach through authentic love, through compassion, through seeing people for who they were without the need to change them, but to guide them, to let them know you are the one in control of you. You are the one in control of healing yourself. And that's what's interesting about this whole thing, is nobody around him actually was healed by him. He helped them to heal themselves, because he taught them faith in themselves. And he said multiple times, if somebody didn't heal by something, he would ask them, where's your faith? What do you believe about you? What do you believe about your own inner power? Is it aligned with love, or is it aligned with fear? Are you believing that this is your identity, or do you believe you are source God? Do you believe in the I am within yourself? And so he taught this throughout the world, and the world was not ready for it at that time. And so right now we're having this global awakening where people are waking up to that same consciousness that he woke up to, which is why we call it the Christ consciousness. Is why we say the global Christ consciousness awakening in the second coming, because he began that process for us over 2,000 years ago. Now, he's not the only one, but within that religious sector of Christianity, or whatever it might be for you, he held that place of a master teacher for us that brought us back to the energy of love. But there's so many other humans that also walked the earth that played that role for us. Even Buddha did that. Some of the yogan, I can't remember some of the names. If I think of some, and I'll drop the names below. But I believe that we have some current teachers on the earth that are like that. I believe we have some current spiritual masters, such as Eckhart Tolle. I think that Marianne Williamson is one of the master teachers. She's running for president currently, and there's all these things that they're teaching about coming back to the energy of love, but coming back to the energy of love doesn't mean you neglect your needs. It doesn't mean you don't hold your boundaries. It means that you go into this inner cocoon of who you are, and you rediscover yourself without all that programming that had come on to you, and the fear that you created in your energy field, in in your beliefs and in your who you are and your identity, and reprogramming that back to the truth of love. And so this is why people, when they start their awakening, they go into that period of time where they feel alone, they feel isolated. But I can tell you that the more you do the work in that time of the cocoon phase, is what I might say, like for like a butterfly that is morphing into the new self, the more you're able to come out of it free. The more, when you spend your time in this cocoon, on the other side of it, you will be able to see things aligning. You'll begin to see things manifesting that you would always desire, but you have to take the time and allow yourself to reprogram your energy into your authentic self. Then when you come out the other side, you work through the authentic self. You be your authentic self, and you don't allow that to be compromised by the beliefs of the egos around you. Because the reality of it is everybody has a spirit within them calling them back to themselves, calling them back to the pureness of who they are within source energy, God, within the I am energy, but they have to listen to that for themselves. You can be a guide, you can be a witness for them, you can be a teacher for them, you can be a part of their awakening process. And that's what I do with my healing services, is I guide people through this. I guide them in to that dark cocoon place and to share, to see what is in there, because sometimes what we have a hard time seeing what is in there. I had a hard time seeing. I had to have help going into those dark areas. And it is always beneficial to work with a healer or a therapist when you're doing these things, because it is painful. The reason it is painful is because you had ignored these things and you hadn't allowed yourself to feel them up until this moment. So when we really completely upgrade our lives and renew our mind, we come back to the energy of love, which is not fear. So society, the church, religion has taught us to disconnect from ourselves, because when we're disconnected from ourselves, we're easy to control. And that's just a fact. However, many of those who are teaching this have no idea about this, because they're not wakened to the truth. They truly believe that this is real. I know this is true because when I was in this setting, I truly believed that this is real. I truly believed God was an angry God. I truly believed that God was a jealous God. I truly believed that He would send people to hell that not serve him. I believe these things to the core of my being because I have been taught that. However, there was always this little spark inside of me that questioned. There was always something in me that said, this can't be real. If God is love, then why is he this? And it's because he never was. And it never was. And so when we come back to the truth of what God is, what source energy God is, of the pureness of love, then we begin to align back into that pureness of love. So if you are on this journey and you are struggling, whether you're going through an awakening, whether you were leaving religion, where you're going through deconstruction, whatever that journey may be for you, and you would like support and knowing how to navigate through these dark energies that you're trying to expose, I want to invite you to come and set up a 15-minute breakthrough session with me. This is a free consultation call with me where I can tell you about how I can help you navigate through this. And I offer a 7-week program where we meet weekly for 7 weeks, and I will teach you the tools. I will help you go into these areas of your life and to reprogram them so that you can begin to find yourself on the other side of it, aligned with your true self, aligned with love, aligned with the source energy God within you. So if that is you and you're ready and you're excited to start this journey of reprogramming and getting back to love, I'm going to invite you to come to my website, angieharris.org, set up a breakthrough session with me, and we will talk about how I can help you navigate that journey. Until I talk to you again, I wish you all the best day, night, evening, whatever time it is for you. I send you all the universal love. Namaste.